Hey guys, so this is an unscripted kind of rambly video looking back on 2021. I did one last year and a few people seemed to like that. It had a lot of hopeful comments. So what I'm going to be doing is talking about a Q&A that I kind of hosted, and I'll be answering a bunch of questions from you guys. Then also there will be a look back on 2021, which I think I'll start off with. And then I will also for the Q&A, I'll like merge similar questions. It's a bit rambly, so I want to have at least some sort of structure in there. And then we'll go on for our plans in 2022, but I just want to say outright that the Sinnoh video, the BDSP video, will hopefully come out before Legends Arceus releases. I've spent a lot of time on it, and it kind of feels like the ending of all of these videos that I've made and all the posts that I've made online over the last few months, this last year. So it really feels like the ending of 2021 for me is coming next year before Legends comes out. So before we get into the Q&A, as I said, let's go into kind of how this year went for me. I started uploading videos again after my big hiatus in 2020, and I think I put about 5 or 6 videos out. Working backwards, because it's probably easier for me to remember, the gotcha video is maybe the one I'm second happiest with. I adored making it, but it wasn't very successful, and I have to live with that. It was a very selfish video to make, and realizing that I created it strictly for myself was a terrible idea, and I won't do it again, ultimately. Then the BDSP videos, it's very hard for me to make videos on the Sinnoh remakes because I was not very positive to them leading up to release, and that's why this new one has also been very difficult to make. I don't like being negative about things, and being known as my biggest video, and I can't thank you guys enough for that first video, but being known as this really negative kind of guy for this year is kind of weird. It's really weird after being called a huge shill for the whole year before, so it's it's different. I'd have to say my favorite video that I made this year was probably the one on the Sinnoh directors, or who was going to make the Sinnoh remake before we even knew that it existed. Weirdly enough, that thumbnail predicted everything, but regardless, it was a video talking about something that didn't exist. There was no fanfare behind it, and yet it still got tons and tons of coverage. The editing was probably my favorite that I've done. The theming behind it, having it be like a fighting game bracket tournament to try and see who would be the strongest or the most viable as a director. I don't know, I think it was really cool, and I got to pay a lot of homage to Third Strike, which is like the best game ever. Then for the stuff that YouTube probably doesn't know too much about, and if you don't, then why don't you follow me on Twitter? I managed to get into a lot of manga and anime communities this year, and leading the color collab for the Kanojo Karishimasu anniversary was really, really just nice. It's been good to branch out of Pokemon a lot, and it hasn't been reflected in YouTube. I don't think I would ever do a non-Pokemon video because I don't think you guys would want to watch, even though I have so much to say in the same way that I would about Pokemon, about so many series and things that I love and I hate, and I think it's very interesting that I can't express that, especially after the gotcha video, but who knows, maybe in another lifetime you guys will want to see that sort of thing. I think living with the fact that YouTube, despite doing it for so long, is still not what I want it to be is heartbreaking, and it kind of sucks, but whatever. I'll get into that maybe later on with 2022. Oh, and also, I can't forget Pokemon Sigma Platinum. We have finally released it. It is still being worked on. There are things that I still have to do to get it out into the most recent BDSP version at the time of recording, which is 1.13 or 1.1.3, sorry. And yeah, I mean, I kind of expected the amount of appeal that it got, and I feel like a lot of people missed the point of the mod. It's very much just a start. When we can add the distortion world and stuff like that, basically it's the platinum that I wanted them to make. It's the remake that I wanted them to make, even if there wasn't any specific platinum elements, if that makes sense, that are just impossible right now, like the Frontier. I didn't expect that, but given like the platinum decks and the platinum trainers and the platinum like balancing is like a big thing for me, but I'll get more into that in my BDSP video, where I will probably also talk about Sigma Platinum in a lot more detail. Okay, so next is the Q&A from Twitter, YouTube, Discord, etc. So one question was, you talk a lot about the entire franchise on Twitter, but stick to the more modern elements on YouTube. Is this a conscious choice or just a byproduct of not having enough time to satisfyingly cover older things without falling behind on covering the recent stuff? And I think it's both. I think the newer stuff is more important for me to talk about because I think if I talk about, say, Ruby and Sapphire and my thoughts on that game, it's not really going to affect how people view the series going forward. And I think that more relevant conversation is more valuable to me. But also, it is mainly just a time thing. If I had all of the time in the world, if I could stop time, I would make so many videos on older stuff and newer stuff. But I'm still catching up on BDSP and all of the other stuff for last year, which I will talk about when we get into the 2022 plans. What do you do to use your research? Where do you get your sources? And what advice would you give to somebody who wants to be more knowledgeable about the development of the series? So mainly it's just keeping up with people, like the regular posts and interviews that kind of go on. Like, this is just something that I do as a hobby because I am insane. But also just talking with a lot of these people, which I realize is not easy to do both for yourself and also on them. Like, I would not expect them to answer like 10 people at the same time talking about Pokemon. But in terms of sharing that, I've made a channel in my Discord called Staff Posts, where I basically translate and update every single major post, whether it is relating to Pokemon or the anime or from like an individual staff post on Twitter, Ilka, that sort of thing, Game Freak. I even have like some Little Town Hero stuff in there, just documenting everything. I think is really one way that you guys can jump in and obviously just talk to me about anything and I'll be free to answer questions. So I'm doing right now. Another question was, do you know why they went for a faithful remake with BDSP? And truthfully, I don't know. I don't think there was any need for it. I've gone over this before in videos and on social media, but I don't think there was any need for it. I think it was a really bizarre choice, but I think it's also really safe when put next to Legends Arceus. So, I don't know. There's a lot on that game's development that I want to address in the video, so my truthful answer is I don't really know. I really do think that they just wanted something safe, though, just in case Legends Arceus just bombed, which I don't think it will. Which episode of Pokemon Evolutions did you like the most? I got a lot of these questions. Was it mainly for the animation or the story being told? So I think my favorite was probably the Kanto episode. Aside from having a lot of regular Pokemon stuff like Shuhei Yasuda, I do think that the character designs were probably perfect. The compositing and background art was also really, really well done, on top of just having some stellar key animation. And it was also pretty fun. It was a new perspective, and it was featured on a character that I just love. So to see all of that kind of come together was great. Are there any spin-off games that you'd like to make a video on or / talk about? So for those that don't know, I haven't talked to you about this. I've talked about this in my Discord before and on streams, but I had a video on Pokemon Snap, a new Pokemon Snap, that was almost done. It would have been done at around the middle of June, but I decided to not do it primarily because I was not happy with it. It was about the quality of like your average Lewtwo video, but since I was covering 2 whole games, I really wanted to focus in on why those 2 games are so important. So that's the video. I want to make a video on Unite. Yeah, I wanted to make a video on Rumble last year. There's a ton of spin-off stuff. I have a lot to say about the Colosseum games. There's a lot. There is a lot to say on a lot of Pokemon spin-offs. And hopefully, one day I'll be able to cover them if I have the time. Would I like an anime adaptation of Pokemon Adventures? So I suppose that really depends on the production behind it. If the staff is like pretty competent, then yeah, sure. I think Pokemon's animation recently has just been pretty incredible. We are in such a golden age for the series, between the main series actually looking pretty good, Poketoon, then you have Gotcha, and then Pokemon Evolutions as well. There is so much to pull from, and also the movies look great. So it could be handled well. I'm only concerned about how much it would cover. If it did not cover Gold, Silver, and Crystal, that part of the story is like so integral to everything. If they cut it off after Gen 1 again, I would not be happy with it. But you know, if we go up to the end of Crystal, then I think the issue with kind of longer productions like that is you might have the Pokemon Origins issue, where it's not particularly competent for most of it, but it's like, it's kind of new to people, so I don't know. I have a lot to say on Pokemon Origins as well, but hopefully if that does ever happen, which I don't think it ever will, to clarify, I hope that it doesn't go down that path. Got a lot of anime questions here. But where do you get information on the specific animators that work on specific anime scenes? I've always seen you mentioning it on Twitter, but I've been curious. So whenever I talk about non-Pokemon anime, that's usually from Sakugaburu or just like a lot of the people that are familiar with those series that have already documented it. I would say the only company that I can really recognize people from are the Toei staff that have mainly worked on series like Dragon Ball, Digimon, Dragon Quest, etc. And this extends to a lot of their older productions as well, like Dragon Ball Z. Like, I know a lot of the animators and can recognize them pretty effortlessly. With Pokemon, it's a mixture of starting to recognize people's styles and also just talking to them. But if you do want to get into animation and who created what and why all of their work is so distinct, there are a lot of resources out there. What's my favorite Pokemon story / narrative, and why is it Sun and Moon? Well, it's not Sun and Moon, it's Ultra Sun and Moon. And I know that I'm going to get crucified by saying that, so I'm not going to elaborate, and I'm going to say wait for the video on it, because I have such a big video planned on what I think is the best Pokemon story. But I will leave you guys to mull about that, I guess, until that happens. Who do I think is Pokemon's best and worst director? See, that's a very difficult question because you have somebody like Masuda who has worked on like 7 games at this point, so it could really be him because Black and White are my favorite games, right? But at the same time, I think Black and White 2's director, Takao Uno, might be my favorite, but that's because he had such a big role in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but that's not his like directorial role. I could say that it's Morimoto because I love pretty much 100% of Pokemon Emerald and Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but they are not like the upper echelon, like best absolute games in the series for me, especially Emerald. I could say that it is Iwao because out of the one game that he directed, it was, great, and I love it so much. Like, he has a 100% good track record. I can say who I think the worst director is, and I think it's Omori, but that's only because I think that he has a lot of really great ideas, but never the time to execute them, and I don't really think that it's his fault. I think that it's the production cycle of Pokemon that affects who the best and worst director is, and this has always been the case. So as for best and worst, I don't really know, but as my current favorite, I would say Iwao. Though I wish we knew anything about Legends Arceus. Maybe it's a new guy, who knows? Could you specify for everybody what's the state of things with Ultra Sun and Moon repainted? So Usum repainted, or 3DS repainted, or whatever I was calling it, the Pokemon repainted project, was something that I was doing where I would touch up the textures and redraw them for the 3DS games, so that when, most people are now playing them on Citra, on like these 4K monitors, why not make nicer textures to kind of keep up with that? And that is a huge project. And obviously nobody was going to help me on that sort of thing because nobody would put in the amount of effort for free. And I totally understand that. But given everything that I've been doing recently, I'd say that it's just not going to happen. The most I can say is that I will release a smaller version of that will have all of the upscaled UI assets, which are the most dated looking thing about those games. And also the thing that other HD texture packs, no offense, have not really tried to update in a meaningful way. They've just kind of replaced the textures and it doesn't look too good to me. So maybe I'll make one with updated UI textures and we'll see. Maybe later this year, who knows. But as for a full release for every texture in the game, I can't promise anything. Which Pokemon spin-off would you get rid of to bring back a dead one? Oh my god. I mean, this is also difficult because I could just kill Cafe Mix and nothing would change. I would say I'd like to see them take another jab at Ranger. I don't know, it doesn't seem like it can happen. Do you have a favorite artist on either the games or the TCG? I have favorite animators, but as far as artists go, not really. I like Naoki Saito's style a lot, and Yusuke Omura has designed some of my favorite characters in the series. But total, I would probably say Megumi Mizutani. Her art style just feels so modern for me, especially where Pokemon is concerned. And also her character designs are like my favorite in the series. I think they were just, maybe if they were a little bit better proportioned. But for Let's Go, the style absolutely works perfectly, so I cannot complain. But yeah, I really, really hope that she is like the art director or character designer on future Pokemon games. Please, 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 just keep her there. She is just so good at what she does. I would love to make a whole video on just her one day. I think it would be fantastic. What do you feel is the most unique Pokemon track in the main series? Not necessarily the best, just the one that you feel stands out from all of the others in a distinct way. That's so difficult because there are so many Pokemon tracks. I will say the one that kind of fits that the most in my brain currently is the Reminisce Park theme. Like the legendary one, it sounds so good. But it also just doesn't sound very Pokemon at all. It feels like what Kageyama was trying to do with the ORAS soundtrack, and I really, really appreciate that. Like, I could definitely hear Kingdom Hearts, like, sound effects and audio playing over this. But I like it. I think it's really distinct and really nice for a game that, again, is not very distinct, but I'll get into that when the video comes out. What's my favorite piece of media outside of Pokemon? So, as far as, I guess, games go, Melee is the absolute best game, like, ever made. It's given me so much, like, literally my life, even more than Pokemon, despite it being my job now. And it's also a game I religiously play for like 2 hours a day. As far as favorite series go, I would say Ratchet and Clank is probably my favorite. It's been so consistent even for the games that aren't the first 3 games in the series. And with Ratchet 1 through 3 being just close to perfect, I don't think I would ever put anything else up there. I would say my taste in movies and anime and manga is far more scattered than that, books as well, so I can't really quantify that, if that makes sense. But hopefully I could answer that question just a little bit. What are your thoughts on the Komi anime, and are you excited for Season 2? So Komi-san was interesting because I got to speak with a lot of the staff behind that project, and since a lot of it was OLM, I was hopefully trying to make a video on it. Maybe I'll make one next year when the second season comes out, which I'm very excited for. My 2 favorite characters in the series are in that season, or will be in that season, so yeah, great. But as I've told Kawagoe so many times to his face, the direction is just so phenomenal. Komi-san as a manga is not something like incredible. I don't think that it's amazing, but I still really do like it and I keep up with it. Though my issues with the writing and the art quality have kind of diminished a lot of my positive feelings on the manga. So the anime just being such a good production and being so distinct in that aspect really, really made me happy. Again, I cannot gush over how good Kawagoe's direction is. Yet another person that I would just love to do a video just talking to, whether it be for Pokemon, Komi, or anything else that he's worked on in the past. In terms of style only, which Pokemon game is your favorite? So assuming this is visually, I think Let's Go is absolutely the best this series has ever looked. The art design and character design as I've gone over has just been phenomenal. And I really do think that maybe if we had that applied to a newer game, maybe with some different proportioned models, I would be that's just perfect Pokemon to me. Though when it comes to like overall region and aesthetic, I think Oras and Black and White are also really high up there. I love Hoenn so much as a region. It is so visually distinct, especially in like the promo art. And Unova is pretty great too. I think there is no other region like Unova. And also the UI in that game is so good. Though if I had to choose my favorite 2D game visually, it would be Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I have a lot to say on Gen 5's visuals, though I don't think that the moving tween sprites are better than the more dynamic poses that we got in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And also the colors are really nice. The art direction on that game is just so solid, but those would absolutely be my top ones. In terms of overall style though, with what I would like to see them progress with, I think Let's Go is by far like the perfect example of that. What inspired you to do what you do today in content creation / manga? I mean, as far as content creation goes, there are so many inspirations that it would be very difficult to list in terms of like people. It's just what I feel like I'm good at talking about, and I care a lot about the source material, if that makes sense. And it's why if I did ever want to talk about other source material, I don't think people would like it, and that's why I keep it out of this. Because I just don't think people would be interested. Even if that is what drives me to talk about this sort of thing. Because I've pigeonholed myself into Pokemon, and I realize that, and it kind of sucks, but whatever. You obviously have connections to some Game Freak and Ilka people, but how did it develop? If it's stuff you can't discuss, don't sweat about it. It's just talking with people like they are people. I think whenever Pokemon in particular, or just a lot of games made in Japan, there's a lot of weird mysticism about the people that make it, and that is partially on the corporate side, I will admit. But Game Freak historically has been a very down-to-earth company. Like, their website is so informative on just the people that make these kinds of games. And also just like chatting with people occasionally, whether it be anime staff or Game Freak staff or people at Ilka, it's like you can really build friendships that way, and I think it's really cool. And as for the things that we talk about, it's nothing contract violating, obviously. But being able to befriend the people that work on the media that you enjoy is a really insightful experience. And it absolutely means the world to me. It really just develops like a normal friendship. And I think that is so cool. Do you ever think about remaking or making extended versions of your past videos? Also, how's your day? It's December and I'm cold and I'm also kind of sick, so it sucks. But in terms of answering your question, I think I've thought about this before, and I think the behind the scenes stuff that I talk about on Patreon probably covers all of that, where I really like get out points on older videos that maybe I didn't have the time to talk about. I don't think I disagree with any of my older videos, and I still think they are pretty well made for my I guess like my quality at the time. I guess that's probably the closest equivalent to doing that. I would love to remake those in some form, but I just don't have the time, ultimately. What have been some games you've had a good time with this year, and any releases you're looking forward to in particular in 2022 besides, good old Pokemon? Honestly, I don't play too many new video games, I'm gonna be honest. Mainly because of a time thing, but also because I would say the only one that I've really played a lot of this year was Rift Apart. Like, as a Ratchet game, it will never be as good as 1 through 3, and I think I've accepted that. But it was still really solid, and I had so much fun with it, and it is so gorgeous. It's easily the best looking game, like, of this year. I also played Metroid Dread this year. I really enjoyed that. It was also nice to play a Metroid game that didn't suck for the first time in over a decade. I think Metroid Dread would be my game of the year if it wasn't for Ratchet. I also like playing Snap and Unite, but again, they're Pokemon, so... Oh, and Bowser's Fury. I didn't play the 3D World portion of that game because I speedran 3D World so many times when it came out on the Wii U, it's like, I don't need to play this game again. But I really enjoyed what I did play of Bowser's Fury. I finished Bowser's Fury. It's just like not really the full part of the game, so. Oh yeah, I also played Link's Awakening this year, like the remake, right before BDSP got announced, which is very funny to me. Next year, I really hope we get Prime 4. I'm really excited to play Bayonetta 3 finally. Also, the new Zelda game. Hopefully a new Ratchet gets announced, maybe? Hoping for Pikmin 4 as well, please. I also got to do a full playthrough of Pikmin 3 Deluxe this year, and I would call it my game of the year, if that counts, but it doesn't really. Because, I mean, I already played it like 8 years ago. I don't know if I'm going to have much money next year, I'm going to be honest. Are there any animators you'd like to see work on the Pokemon anime or a movie? Yeah, so in terms of like regular episodes, it would obviously never happen because they work at Toei, but seeing Naoki Tate work on Pokemon would just be a dream to me. Same with Naotoshi Shida, though I think he would be saved for a big movie, and I would lose my mind seeing him draw like a Charizard or something. It would be really, really weird. But God, I would lose my mind to see like a Broly level cut from Shida. Most of these people would be Toei, like Ryo Onoshi would, oh my god. But also a lot of them have already animated on Pokemon, like Chikashi Kobuta, Yutaka Nakamura, a bunch of the animators that I've already talked about in that gotcha video already kind of did that for me. So seeing people that I'm more intimately familiar with from Toei would be great. Although I love all of the existing Pokemon staff, don't get me wrong. From what you can gather, what have working conditions at Game Freak been like historically? With how fast these games have to come out, I get worried about the well-being of their staff. So from what I know, and from what I have talked about in terms of like, oh, how was your day at work type thing. Again, no like leaks here. They are so not traditional AAA, it's kind of insane. So one thing I've seen brought up a lot over the last couple of years, obviously, is COVID, right? And how that has affected the production of like a new Pokemon game. And as crazy as it might seem, Japan hates, or like the working from home thing was just not a thing in Japan, like at all before then for the majority of companies. But before COVID, Game Freak had that in place for a long, long time. Like they are extremely progressive and they are very like new friendly. A lot of people join Game Freak and then kind of leave and move on to bigger things. They have a lot of really nice benefits for the people that just kind of joined fresh out of university. And I've never heard like a bad thing about anybody working at Game Freak. So it's pretty good despite how awful the scheduling is. Really, the people that dictate that should be the ones to blame for any negative working conditions, I guess. You can change one thing in one Pokemon game that isn't BDSP. What do you change? Let me skip text and cutscenes in Gen 7. I think Ultra Sun and Moon might be my favorite games in the series if you let me do that. But unfortunately, you don't, so I have to sit through a lot of dialogue that I've already read. And you can say that replayability does not matter in Pokemon, but they released 2 versions of those games for a reason, okay? Like, it is more common than a lot of other JRPGs. There's also another question that's like, oh, what do you want to cover outside of Pokemon? And there are tons of manga and anime. There is, okay, I guess this is a bit of a spoiler, so mute this if you care about next year. But AKB49 is a manga that I really, really wanted to talk about because nobody has talked about it yet, and I think it is really fascinating and weird. Like, the production side of it is really interesting, and the evolution of Miyajima's art is just kind of nuts as well. To just see happen in real time, oh god, I could gush about that manga and how weird it is. Also, another series that I don't really want to talk about right now, considering the leaks. I also want to talk about Komi, because of just how insane the production was on that anime, as I mentioned earlier. I think a video gushing over Ratchet 1 is pretty overdue, because I think that game is weirdly, like, misaligned as the first game in the series. It kind of sits in 2 and 3 shadow, even though I think it's the best one, and it has taken me a long, long time to come to that point. Also, maybe a few Sonic games that I just absolutely love. Like, I would love to spend 3 hours just talking about how much I love Sonic Mania, as if everybody hasn't already done that. Mysterious Girlfriend X is one thing that I would like to talk about, but I feel like Shay and Hazel have done really, really good videos on it that you should just watch instead. But like, read the manga or watch the anime first. Maybe I would talk about more of the production side of things. Because again, that anime is like an adaptation of a very manga-centric work, if that makes sense. Like, this is, how do you translate this into like an anime, right? It does a surprisingly good job. How do you feel about Legends having no online battles or any online features at all besides trading? I mean, truthfully, I haven't even looked into that too much. I don't even know how true all of that is, or to what extent the online goes to, but personally, I don't really care. I haven't played competitive Pokemon since like Gen 7 Ubers. I really just don't care about competitive Pokemon anymore. The VGC format is so painfully unfun, and I can just play singles in a simulator. So I don't really have any reason to care. I think, in terms of other people, yeah, that sucks, but Sword and Shield is more than adequate as a game with, you know, all of these Pokemon and mechanics. I don't think we need to pay $60 to get another game in the same generation with slightly more things for competitive when simulators exist, and Sword and Shield also exists. What do you expect from the next generation of Pokemon? A very Omori-like game, I'm gonna be honest. I think I'm just gonna expect Gen 8 again, which is not a bad thing in a lot of areas. It's very weird. We're in a weird time to be Pokemon fans right now. Like, the most recent remake has been so unprecedented. I have no idea what Legends even is. I have no idea whether they're going to do DLC again. It's a very exciting time, though, I will say. but my expectations for Gen 9, maybe just another Omori game, if I'm gonna be honest. Why do fans continue to buy and support this company when they are clearly milking them? It's beyond impressive the sales that they make with each subsequent disappointing release. So I could have like a really angry take about this and like defend Game Freak or whoever, but I think the real just kind of core answer is that Pokemon as a game is so fundamentally comfy. Like, I'm not mincing words in my BDSP video, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't still enjoy it because the core gameplay is so good. I think people forget that Pokemon got it right on its first time, like, pretty effortlessly. And for that reason, they didn't feel the need to iterate until it was too late. And now they are having to keep up with that. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. It's very interesting. Finally, what specific things do you want to do next year content-wise? Like, what do you want to get into? What do you want to deep dive into, whether that's regards to Pokemon or whatever? So, 2022 plans. Off of YouTube, I still want to do manga stuff. I want to learn how to draw. I want to properly speak Japanese, like fluently, or as close to that as I can. And I'll also be working on various mods and Sigma Platinum updates, which, will be posted on Twitter and on Discord, etc. But in terms of videos, the first one that is going to be coming out is the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl video. I was debating whether to put it into tiny little multiple videos. I've decided it's going to be one big video, comes out right before Legends Arceus. Then I'll have Legends Arceus to cover directly after that for about a month. That's when that's going to come out. And then there is Pokemon Day, so I have no idea what they're going to announce there, but I have to talk about that. Then I have to do basically 2021 catch-up, which will be Pokemon Evolutions. I want to talk about Unite a lot. I've had so much to say on Unite that is really, really difficult to put into words as somebody that has played League for like 10 years. And also I want to finish that new Snap video. Again, it was like almost done, but yeah, let's go with that. There are also a few people that I want to make videos about or with. I'm not going to elaborate too much on those because they will be later on in the year. Hopefully look forward to that though, because I think it will be really eye-opening for a lot of people. But that also requires getting permission from Nintendo and all of the TPC higher-ups, and I don't know if they like me. But yeah, stay tuned for that. I also want to talk about just a lot of game design, a lot of level design, spin-off games, main series games, like aspects of the main series that I just adore that I don't think people really look at. I want next year to be way more positive than this year, and if that's at the cost of more views, because I mean I'm never ever hitting as many as I did on that Sinnoh video, who knows? But as it stands, be excited for next year. I have a lot planned, and I know I say that every year, but I did want to end off with a thank you. This is the first time that I can turn what I'm doing on the internet into a full-time job. And that's insane to me. And everybody that has supported me on Patreon, that is in my Discord, that is subbed, commented, liked, shared with their friends, which is the most important thing. Just having people listen and appreciate the way that I look at things is really gratifying. Not that people agree with me, because, I mean, again, look at the Sinnoh video. I got a lot of nasty things on that. But the fact that people appreciate my editing style, like what I put forward, I really like to, not shape discourse, but I really like to take an active part in it. And I feel like being able to do that and have people acknowledge it is just really cool. And also just from an artistic perspective, making videos on Pokemon with a bit more of an artsy touch to them and not just having it be a guy talk in front of a microphone like this, unscripted, rambly mess, which I think a lot of Pokemon content kind of is. No disrespect against the other people that do that, because again, they're doing what they want and it works really, really well. I just want to continue pushing the envelope of that going into next year, and also making more documentary styled stuff, less of a guy just talking in front of a microphone and more so storytelling, but we'll get into that when it happens. Again, I have a lot of plans. But yeah, again, thank you. My voice is killing. I feel like death, and amazing year. Thank you so much.